Portraits of Home is a series that actually came out of the series, Homesickness series, which you're seeing on the left. The series came about for a few reasons. First of all, after producing this piece, Family Room, as part of Homesickness series, I really enjoyed the oval form, the oval shape of that image, and the way it recalled traditions of portraiture. It reminded me of historic images I'd seen of my own relatives in those old sort of tin-type photographs. So I really liked that evocation of almost a portrait, and how homes, in a way, and the facade of a home could be seen as a form of portraiture, a portrait that captures a life and a community that occupies those spaces. So for me, the series sort of came out of this idea of wanting to create a series of portraits, but portraits in a non-traditional way, in terms of not relying upon a figure for a portrait, but relying on a facade of a home as a means of representation of a person or of a community. For the material, it's the same material. It's the acrylic ink wash, but this time on panel. I painted these on panel for a few reasons. First of all, I plan for the scale of this series to grow sort of pretty infinitely. My hope is that the series can begin to become more emblematic of the scale of the problem of the loss of homes in Detroit. There's over 100,000 abandoned structures in the city of Detroit, many that are beyond saving and are just awaiting demolition. And so the idea of how many have been lost, how many will be lost to destruction and redevelopment, the idea is I want to create a series that really evocatively, through scale, reproduces that same sort of scale within the body of the work itself. It is the same material, but I've addressed color, or I guess come to color in a different way. I've started to introduce monochromatic color, but fixating on pinks and greens and purples and browns. This was actually the very first work that I've produced of all of them that are displayed here, although the series is larger than what you're seeing here. And it's already expanding. The series is up to 20 works right now. The color in terms of that work was directly related to the old adage, seeing the world through like rose-tinted glasses, as a way of talking about memory, and how when we think about and when we talk about things that used to happen, we see them oftentimes in a more positive light than they were. So kind of relying on almost that literal sort of sense, I've created a color that's very rosy, as a way of thinking back to this home as a site of memory. But then as I expanded the series, I really wanted the series, each individual work, to remain that of an individual. When I look at these sites, what sort of sets these apart from each other is their size, is their location, is the way I've framed the site. But there's something about the color that makes them very monotonous in a way. It makes them all kind of the same. And so for this series, in thinking about creating portraits, I didn't want to represent families and stories as monoliths, as all the same. Everyone's personal history is different, and the histories of these homes is different. What happened in these homes, who lived in these homes, was different. So color and the modulation of color between each work was a really direct way that I could address the individuality of the histories and the memories that these spaces contained.